Okay, so I think we'll make a start now. So thank you for joining. Thank you for logging into this webinar. It's part of the consultation process for setting up a low carbon offsite construction dynamic purchasing system. It's a very innovative proposal we have for you today. So what we're going to do is to talk through the background to the proposal and what it means in operation, or the proposed operation. So we're holding 3 sessions. This is the second of 3. And what we're doing is we're doing another one next week on the 22nd. So the structure of these sessions are 3 very short introductory slides live from me. And then we've got a pre-recorded section. It's a really good job we have, because a lot of people's web browsers and things seem to not be working today, or internet connections. So, you know, really good thing we're doing that. And then after the pre-recorded session, which lasts about 24 minutes, we will come back to the panel for Q&As, and you can ask any of your questions or make any points about proposals then. And we do welcome them, because we will be feeding all that information into the final offer to the marketplace. So, and the other thing to say is that the pre-recorded session will be available on the Southwest Procurement Alliance internet YouTube channel. So you go just to our website and get it. And we will be sending out the slides and a short questionnaire to everybody who's attended, that we've got registered as attending. Okay, so if I can go on to the next slide, please. So who are the partners? As I say, this is very much a partnership approach to this offering to the marketplace. Bristol Housing Festival are one of the constituent parts, key innovators and disruptors within the modern methods of construction sector. We've got Bristol City Council, who needs no other explanation or introduction to you. Constructing Modern Methods is the digital toolkit that forms part of this procurement and delivery solution. Innovate UK have funded the development of this digital toolkit. YTKO, very well-respected company dealing with central and local government, who have been the lead partner in the Innovate UK project, and ourselves, Southwest Procurement Alliance, who are working on the procurement solution in partnership with the other people. If we can move on to the next slide. So the speakers today are myself, the Director of the Southwest Procurement Alliance, Phil Blackmore, who's the Procurement Manager for the Southwest Procurement Alliance, Philip Stott, who will be talking about the Constructing Modern Methods Toolkit from YTKO, Jessie Wild from Bristol Housing Festival, and Jacqueline Miller from Bristol City Council. And that's it from me just now. I think we're just now going to link to the pre-recorded session, and I look forward to speaking to you in the Q&A session. Thank you very much. Hello, thank you for tuning in to this presentation about our low carbon offsite construction DPS. I'm just going to give you 3 introductory slides, and then hand over to colleagues who will talk to you more about the background and details for our proposal. So what is it? What do clients require when they want to deliver MMC offsite homes? Well, really not much different than they do with any sort of housing that they want to develop. They want, in terms of specification, energy efficiency, low or zero carbon. They want building safety, safe, quality homes for their clients. They usually want to support the local economy, giving work to local suppliers and contractors, certainly wanting, if they're applying for grant funding, to meet the grant funding requirements, which for Homes England are 25% have to be off-site. They want simple and streamlined procurement and delivery systems. They want assured quality and robust quality accreditations. They want to make sure that the properties are mortgageable and chargeable against loan finances. And they want to understand the costs and the cost breakdowns. Don't necessarily want the cheapest, but they want to understand how the costs stack up and how they are being provided with value. So nothing really particularly different from any type of homes. Why is it, though, that despite all exhortations from the government and reports saying that, you know, we will be improving our economy and improving the quality of our homes by using offsite methodologies, is it that it isn't happening? And I think this is a big mystery, but we have had a report set out, Build Homes, Build Jobs, Build Innovation, that was produced in September 2020. And in that, CARS Consultancy set out 10 critical points of failure in the MMC offsite market. I'm not going to go through them all, but I think that one of the things that we hope to do is to address some of these points immediately in the short term through our proposals, and hopefully in the longer term we'll be able to work to and assist in sorting out some of the others. So the ones that I think we are particularly looking at trying to improve and overcome these failure points are the number 5, which is the lack of latest MMC product evidence and data. And we feel that the CMM toolkit that is part of our proposal is going to provide that assurance and information to clients in one easy to read, easy to access place. The other one that we really feel that we will be tackling is actually, you know, the processes and procedures to actually deliver in an easy way. You know, that we will tackle question 4. We will have delivery and procurement model that will actually tie into the MMC process. So, as I say, what we are proposing here is a DPS for residential properties for the social housing sector, houses, apartments, care homes, multi-occupancy dwellings, potentially some community buildings as well if they're associated with that. And we will run this in conjunction, so it will be wrapped around an innovative digital toolkit from CMM, which you'll hear about later. And it will provide the opportunity in a very dynamic and fast-moving supply market for some of the smaller and newer sector suppliers to get access to the social housing sector. So that's enough from me. I'll now hand over to Jessie Wild from Bristol Housing Festival and Jacqueline Miller from Bristol City Council to talk to you about the background and why we feel this is a necessary product and a necessary offering to the market. Thank you very much.
So my name is Jessie Wild, and I'm from the Bristol Housing Festival, and this is Jacqueline Miller, also from Bristol City Council. And we're just going to tell you a little bit about some of where this project has come from. So the Innovate UK project is called the Enabling Housing Innovation for Inclusive Growth project, and started last April, and is a collaboration of multiple partners led by YTKO to accelerate the delivery of MMC housing, specifically focused around Bristol. And it's made up of 3 constituent parts as a project. The first is the Demonstrators. So there are 9 sites across Bristol that are being worked with 9 different modular providers within Bristol City Council. And those different modular providers are on different scales. So you've got full volumetric, panelized systems through to some local SME companies as well, working with MMC. And the point is to kind of drive those demonstrators forward, actually build housing using MMC and capture data around how that is happening and what that looks like. The second part is the Council Innovation Enabling Model. And that is specifically working with Bristol City Council to capture the learning from those 9 sites. So as those 9 sites are being brought forward, going through planning and actually moving towards delivery, what's the learning that needs to go on within Bristol City Council about how you engage with MMC, how do you capture that learning, where the pain points are, where the opportunities are, and then make that learning available wider to help build confidence within the market of MMC. Then the final element of the project is this digital toolkit, CMM, which we're going to talk about much more in detail later on, but that will help to interrogate the market, build a business case against real data, and is a real kind of bonus and a real positive outcome of the Innovate UK project. Jacqueline, let me hand over to you just to talk a bit about how Bristol and why Bristol City Council got involved.
Thank you, Jessie. This has been an amazing opportunity to work with partners to the Innovate UK funded project, and in turn work with each of our partner wider networks. We've been able to collaborate on the design, development and delivery of affordable housing in the city. We've been exploring how MMC can form part of the solution to our overall strategic objective of increasing the scale and pace of affordable housing in the city that can respond to the diverse needs of our citizens and our communities. Through the project, we've really pushed proposed systems, design, solutions to respond to our broader and longer term objectives around social, economic and environmental drivers. As the project's evolved, we've talked more and more about communities and beautiful homes, alongside driving the carbon agenda and exploring sustainable solutions. And we've come right back to outcomes-based commissioning that's led by and for residents and communities. And we've been looking at how these new schemes can connect those communities and bring together the residents so that the residents can then feel connected back into those communities. Of the 9 MMC demonstrator schemes, Jessie, we've been able to collate learning around process and practice and collect data around performance and cost that's helped develop an evidence base and shape how we define and assess value for money, really with focus on whole life costs. And as part of the project, we've needed to look at our decision-making, policy, process, practice to understand how this can be applied in the context of MMC. And we're now keen to replicate and at scale some of that good practice, and in some areas, innovation and even next practice. But what's emerged is a need to have greater clarity much earlier on in the commissioning cycle around things like design, planning, partnering and commercial agreements. Did you want to jump in there, Jessie?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Jacqueline. I think it's been really interesting actually working on this particular Innovate UK project and with the Housing Festival in general. And these demonstrator sites represent 430 homes just about. So it's a big enough scale actually that there can be some real learning. And I think what you've mentioned just there, Jacqueline, is the 3 major areas actually that we've noticed as the key barriers to sometimes delivering of housing, particularly MMC. There's that innovation gap. How do you make space when people are busy already? You know, you think of COVID, but even pre-COVID, local authorities were stretched. So how do you make space to innovate, to test a brand new market, to learn about new offerings and really start to understand that growing market? So what we're going to do to kind of bridge that innovation gap. The second major barrier around policy, as you've already mentioned, looking at we have so many strategic aims around sustainability, around biodiversity challenges, around construction skills, and just to name a few. And how do we cross that gap between the strategy and the policy that we're putting in place and actually the real on the ground delivery? How do we bridge that gap and make sure that that delivery is meeting those requirements? And then that third one, as you mentioned, the value for money. There's a bit of a challenge here around MMC and the economic case. Some MMC, quite a lot of it at this stage, isn't necessarily cheaper on delivery. That kind of upfront capital cost moment isn't necessarily cheaper, but there is a real opportunity here to start to look at whole life cost, looking at the long-term economic benefits of bills and repairs and more sustainability and less need for kind of retrofit and all that kind of thing. So there are key barriers here, but actually real opportunities to start to rethink and reframe some of the opportunities as well.
I agree. And what we're now doing a year into the project is looking beyond the life of the project. And we're really keen to explore MMC as an ecosystem with Bristol and the region as part of a centre of excellence is at the heart of that conversation. So what that will do is enable us to establish demand, promote supply, promote the local supply chain, benefit the local economy, and really start to kind of building opportunities for skills and jobs. So I'm really pleased that SWPA and our colleagues over there, Mary and Phil, but the whole of the rest of the team that have been working with them, have been proactive in taking forward an opportunity to look at how we can establish a mechanism that will enable us to have an efficient, effective, and important for us as public sector bodies, compliant kind of commissioning pathway for MMC.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I think that's a perfect time to hand back over to Phil to talk us a little bit more through what CMM is and what this is going to look like. So thank you so much, Phil.
Good afternoon. My name's Phil Stott. I'm the Head of Construction and Sustainability at YTKO and the overall lead on CMM, Constructing Modern Methods. The reason that we sort of started this project, and it's been alluded to by Mary and Jacqueline and Jessie, is that this is really all about unblocking the market for MMC. MMC represents a great opportunity for local authorities to meet their housing demands. It represents an opportunity for housing associations and for RPs or registered providers to also facilitate and unlock those sort of housing targets that we have. It's pretty well known that we've got 300,000 homes that are required. And unfortunately, it's got to the point now where really we have to start looking at beyond traditional means to meet those targets. In Bristol alone, they're talking about around 2,000 homes are required every year. And what's been fantastic about this project, and the work has been ongoing for the last year on the Innovate UK programme, but actually before that as well, with the work that the Bristol Housing Festival have done since 2018, is really to drive innovation and to help support a marketplace to which is, I think, famously risk adverse to taking on new housing projects. I remember a colleague who worked at a housing association once said to me, the worst thing we can ever do is build homes, because land just ticks up in value, but actually when you build on it, you don't know if you're increasing that value. So for us, using the Innovate UK project and really exploring this journey in partnership with a local authority like Bristol, and Bristol have been fantastic at being very open and honest about the challenges that they're facing, to really unlock the MMC market at scale, so that we don't end up with little one-offs or two-offs, or we end up with 10 or 20 homes that are being built and then never are built again. It's about really creating a scale and a pipeline that can excitingly unlock that market. So for me, CMM was really about taking that outcome-led procurement. And initially, and it's quite funny, when you talk to people in procurement, they'll always talk about outcome-led procurement, and the government loves to talk about outcome-led procurement. But actually, outcome-led procurement is quite often means different things to different people. I've spoken to local authorities who see that their procurement, they want to be entirely driven by net carbon zero positive homes. I've seen local authorities who actually don't want to do anything in terms of the green agenda. They just want to build homes quickly. And I've seen local authorities where absolutely, you know, the pounds and pennies are so tight that they have to make sure that the housing they build has a really strong economic case. So for us, when we looked at CMM, and CMM really came out of this Innovate UK project, which was all around creating a commercial model that worked in the long term and really unlocked MMC at scale. So we made sure that we worked in partnership with the local authority, who would then represent the needs of other local authorities. There is nothing worse than a consultancy or someone from the private sector coming along and telling a local authority what we think they should do. What's really important is that we drive something that local authorities feel this is for them, and that's what CMM is all about. We also wanted to make sure that we worked with leading experts in procurement so that we could work within the existing procurement frameworks and dynamic purchasing systems, the DPSs. And that's been wonderful with SWPA stepping forward to help us with that. So in a way, we've brought a lot of the experts together to put this project, this program into a pilot phase and bring it to market as part of this procurement. And in terms of the scale, it's really exciting to be able to talk about £1.1 billion of potential pipeline. The West of England is a hub. It's an innovation space for housing. And that's, again, a really welcome opportunity. So by having this sort of hub in the West, we feel really confident that we can deliver some of the housing needs that are required. If we just move on to the next slide. Thank you. So CMM, in a really simple way, is this third pillar of the Innovate UK project, and it's actually informed by the other two parts of that project. The Innovate project, again, just to sort of echo what Jessie said, is all around working with MMC providers. And, you know, we're not just working with 1 or 2 typologies of MMC in terms of volumetric or panelized. We're working with 9 different typologies of MMC. We're working with a local authority who've been very honest and robust with us. And we're also sort of backed by a whole wealth of research, which says that, you know, the problem with MMC is that actually it's too expensive, or that it's not scalable at the moment, or that it's actually really hard to work in traditional procurement structures to get it procured. So when we were sort of building this, we didn't start off with a solution. What's been really nice about this project, and actually where Innovate UK has great purpose and is really effective, is when it backs R&D. And this project's complete R&D. We're here going, we don't know necessarily where we were going to end up. All we know is we had a problem. And that problem was for local authorities, and what I always refer to as the glossy brochure problem, whereby local authorities or housing associations were getting approached by one type of MMC. And that one type of MMC could be full volumetric, it could be large, saying actually we only need 1,000 units to get going. It could be people offering to build factories in your city to help, you know, sort of sweeten the deal in some ways. But the reality is actually procurement has got to be about a competitive environment. It's got to be about working and meeting different requirements for different local authorities. So some local authorities like Bristol have got huge opportunities for development, but other local authorities don't. Bristol has an HRA, which allows them to build large quality affordable homes, but actually other local authorities don't. So for us, it was about making sure that we weren't just limiting the market to one typology. And from a local authority's point of view, from what I would call a client's point of view, they are struggling to get through this, this sort of emerging market that changes almost on a daily basis. They don't know the cost, they don't know the speed, they don't know the differences of typology. There's an education piece to be done as well. And so what really was confusing for local authorities was that actually, you know, they've built homes in roughly the same way for sort of 50, 60 years. And we're coming in and saying, use MMC, which, you know, has got real benefits, but actually we're showing them a model which is for a market that is just emerging. It's just sort of developing. So again, we were responding to a need from our clients saying, we don't know where to start with this stuff. We were responding also to the MMC industry. And again, this has been really encouraging. Those 9 MMC providers that we're working with have all said to us, you know, it's a challenge to work with local authorities. Everyone recognizes there's this 25% MMC target. Everyone recognizes that you need the scale from the local authorities and housing associations in order to meet, you know, the sort of the whole economic case for MMC. But actually, for us, it was a case of saying some people are really finding it difficult to access and work closely with local authorities in a transparent, robust, and procurement savvy way. So again, for us, it was about saying, okay, how can we help you? And then again, it's about the responding to our needs in the society. I've worked in sustainable housing for nearly, you know, sort of 15 years now. And actually, I have yet to see really compelling case that, you know, we can build zero carbon homes without some form of offsite or MMC fabric solution. So for me, I think it's not just about quick homes. It's not just about hopefully getting that MMC affordable. It's also about getting MMC into a context where it is seen as also being sustainable, as being the solution to our net zero troubles, and also as potentially the solution for building high quality placemaking as well, because we've all seen developments where there isn't a sense of community and there isn't a sense of space. And actually what MMC does do is provide some of the solutions around that. I mean, if we just flick to my final slide and then I'll pass on to Phil Blackmore. So what we developed with CMM was what I like to call the sort of confused.com for the MMC marketplace. Again, this is just being very clear here that the output of CMM is a specification of a type of MMC build. It is in no way, shape or form giving out names or numbers of specific providers. What we want to do is encourage competition in the market on a fair and robust basis. We do not want to help support one provider or one specific MMC provider over another. So what we do is we collect data, and we collect data on performance, And this is where outcome-led procurement really becomes a real thing, because what we're saying here is actually, if you want to know which MMC typology or what type of MMC would actually build you a net zero carbon positive home, then we can help do that. If you want to know which typology of MMC is best suited for a small site, we could again help with those recommendations. If you want to know in terms of if you've got a large number of volumetric opportunities, again, we can help with that. But how do we help? Well, we help by putting it all in a really simple, user-friendly space. So we've built, again, another online system, a database. If you think about confused.com, when you shop for your car insurance or your home insurance, you say, this is what my home's like. This is what matters to me. This is what sort of thing I want to do. And for us, it's exactly the same. We're helping local authority users to shop the MMC marketplace. We're helping them to find which MMC typologies would best suit the needs of a specific site. We don't get into configuration, we don't get into design. All we're doing is saying, look, if you've got a site for 10 homes, or if you've got a site for 1,000 homes, if you want it to be zero carbon, or you want it actually to be EPCB, then all of those different strategic goals can be fed into the CMM system, and we can come out with a spec which will feed into the procurement process to help you robustly procure a provider. So for us, it's about providing that little touch point between the marketplace, which is changing, evolving, and complicated, and the client, the user, from the local authority base. So we've brought all of the difficulties of the marketplace into one space. So hopefully that sort of makes a bit of sense. And what we'd like to do is, obviously we've got a Q&A session later on where you can ask more questions about that. But I'm now going to pass over to Phil Blackmore from SWPA to just finish this little recorded session and cover off some of the benefits for the clients and for you guys who are potentially from the MMC marketplace as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm the Regional Procurement Manager at SWPA, and I'm going to talk you through the DPS process, how the CMM digital toolkit fits within the process, and the benefits for suppliers, contractors, and our clients. But first of all, the benefits of the kind of joint approach. I know Phil and Jesse and everybody's kind of commented on this already, but the kind of main benefits is that it's working with a group of people with a clear vision, commitment, and excellent networks. The Innovate UK team are part of the local authority network. We have the reputation of Bristol Housing Festival. Offers a procurement solution giving clients access to a range of suppliers and contractors that can cater for the demands of reduced zero carbon homes. This approach will make the path to MMC offsite delivery more streamlined, efficient, and easier for organisations than it is currently, by providing a clear and assured pathway and a range of suppliers and contractors who have been rigorously assessed and accredited. Opportunity to develop the supply market in the southwest and the surrounding areas. And finally, added social value impact outcomes to be at the heart of all procurement. Okay, what is a dynamic purchasing system? And what are the benefits compared to a traditional framework? Well, the DPS can streamline procurement for both applicants and clients. It's dynamic. Applicants can join at any time, whereas a framework is very rigid, and suppliers are unable to join once it's commenced. A DPS has no end date, unlike frameworks which are generally for 4 years. Applicants must pass a selection questionnaire and a financial assessment to obtain a place on the DPS, whereas a framework requires this, plus a whole lot more. And each client requirement opportunity advertised under the DPS must be competitively tendered, so there is no direct award option. I just want to talk you through the procurement process for suppliers and contractors. So as you will see, the applicant process here is quite straightforward in terms of the number of steps involved. So the applicant would express an interest, then they'll download and read the documentation, and finally complete the request to participate application process, which will consist of a selection questionnaire, a financial assessment, and generally a case study. The application is then received by SWPA, where our evaluation process begins. all of the documents present? If not, the applicant has 3 days to upload the missing information. If this doesn't happen, then the applicant is notified of their rejected application. For an applicant to progress, they must pass the selection questionnaire compliance checks, pass the financial assessment checks, and reach a minimum score required for the case study assessment. If the applicant fails any of these 3 criteria, they will be notified and the rejected application and then finally debriefed. But the one benefit of the DPS is that applicants can reapply at any time. Successful applicants will then be notified and requested to complete the CMM Digital Toolkit registration and data input process. Once complete, the applicant will be notified and a place on the DPS is secured. So the client DPS process. So the client will register their project and access the CMM Digital Toolkit, where they will enter the required information and data, including their site requirements. The toolkit will generate an output, including a specification and a list of potential suppliers and contractors who can meet your requirements. If happy, the client can then move on to the call-off stage and register the project with SWPA. SWPA will send expressions of interest to the system-generated suppliers and contractors, and then it's up to the client to run the mini competition process. And I just want to kind of say at this stage as well, it's important to say that you're not obliged to carry out the mini competition process once you receive the generated outputs from the toolkit. Okay, so what are the advantages for clients by using our specific low carbon offsite DPS offering? It allows clients to get to grips with the rapidly evolving and changing MMC marketplace. It provides crucial data on key metrics like timescales, green credentials, performance, site suitability, and even gives some idea of cost versus traditional build. Robust quality assured data, so we do the research for you. Facilities true outcome-led procurement, allowing the client to procure against the strategic needs which matter to them. And as previously mentioned, there is no obligation to carry out a call-off. So for example, you may need to revise your business case based on the toolkit output to enable you to proceed at a call-off at a later stage. Now we look at the benefits for suppliers and contractors using our DPS. So through the digital toolkit, there'll be an option to provide supply-only or full turnkey solutions. Suppliers and contractors will be in the shop window more frequently. Increases reach for all suppliers and contractors. So we basically become your sales team. Aligns the contractor and the supplier and their systems to buyers who are looking for that specific system. So no more high performance systems being knocked out on price. Provides a procurement solution so that MMC contractors and suppliers can actually work with the public sector in a fair and transparent way. As your system improves in performance, cost, data, we can update your metrics. And opportunities to meet and operate within new partnerships and networks, helping to create pathways for SMEs. Finally, the procurement timeline and next steps for the DPS. We're currently at stage 2, just highlighted in yellow there. There'll be 2 more sessions, as Mary alluded to earlier, on the 15th and then the 22nd of April. You'll have access to a market consultation survey, which will be available next week, so week commencing the 12th of April. This will be available via the ProContract portal, and we'll also email you a copy. And we're looking to issue the contract notice on the new Find a Tender service on the 31st of May. So that concludes the webinar. Thanks for listening. I'm now going to pass you back to the live session and facilitator to introduce the Q&A session.
Right. Hopefully everyone's back and you can hear us all. I've just realized, for sake of continuity, that we should have all worn the same clothes as on the video that was on earlier. So hopefully that's of use. For anyone who joined halfway through the session, please note that we can send and circulate the video link to you all so that you can watch it again in your own time. My name's Phil Stott, as you may have heard on the call, sorry, on the video. I'm the head of construction and sustainability of YTKO. And we're working closely with Mary from SWPA and Phil Blackmore from SWPA as well. I believe Phil might be slightly intermittent on his internet today, so please bear with us. We also have joining us Jessie Wild from the Bristol Housing Festival and Jacqueline Miller from Bristol City Council. We must all seem like old friends because you've had half an hour of us talking at you. So the point of this part of the session is to answer any of your questions or queries that you have as a result of watching the video or attending this webinar. We are, in the last one of these we ran, we had a lot of questions on either the CMM digital toolkit or the sort of the DPS and what that meant. So by all means, please, and I can see that we have the chat and the Q&A open as well. So you can pop your questions in there. Please do take advantage of this opportunity. I know we seem to have not lost anyone. In fact, we've gained a couple of attendees over the course of the video going, so that's really good news. But please do take this opportunity to ask us some questions or anything that you're worried about. Obviously, this is a great opportunity to work closely with local authorities. It's a great opportunity for local authorities to sort of overcome some of those barriers relating to MMC. So please do take this opportunity to pop a question in the chat or a question in the Q&A session. Just to give you an opportunity to get your thoughts together, I'm going to quickly ask a couple of questions of two of our panelists who appeared briefly on the video. I'm going to start coming straight to Jessie, if that's okay. Jessie obviously works for the Bristol Housing Festival, and you've had many years in the marketplace working with MMC. In fact, Bristol Housing Festival has sort of supported some of the first MMC developments in Bristol. And I just want to ask you, do you think that the DPS and the CMM tool can present a valuable opportunity for MMC providers to win work with local authorities and housing associations?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, but absolutely. I think, you know, as we've already discussed in the video, it's this whole process of moving to kind of the MMC. It's a really quite complex issue, particularly around kind of procurement for local authorities, but also RPs. There's questions around how you create institutional confidence and actually build up that sort of experience in assessing the market, which is changing at a really kind of rapid rate. And there are a few options on there. So you can rely on consultants to advise, which is absolutely fine, but it doesn't build that kind of institutional confidence, and the knowledge doesn't sort of build up within the organizations. And you're also looking at repeat costs each time working with consultants. There's another option in terms of as an organization investing significant time into keeping tabs on that market and actually getting to grips with what MMC looks like currently and how it's evolving. But that will then also require kind of constant updating of your own knowledge and the institutional knowledge. And then you could also look to rely on the existing frameworks that exist, but as we've already mentioned in that video, the market is changing so quickly. So particularly static frameworks are kind of, it's not taking in the breadth of the market as it changes as we go. So there are significant barriers actually around kind of and hurdles to overcome when you're looking at procurement. So when I see this DPS and I look at the kind of CMM and how those two link together, what it does, as far as I can see, and as we've been engaged, is it provides a way to actually start to build up that confidence for those that are commissioning MMC particularly to engage directly in the marketplace while using their own institutional knowledge, but actually relying on something that is testing and trialing the market and giving that that kind of sense of confidence in that something is being tested and tried and there's real data kind of behind it, backing it and driving it. And then you're looking at, you know, ensuring value for money and good market engagement. And of course, then it's a legally compliant DPS as well. So I think that there are multiple reasons that makes this a really kind of positive and a really good tool for local authorities and registered providers as well.
Well, thank you, Jessie. I think that's a really useful sort of couple of points that you raised there, and obviously sort of ties into some of the work we've done with Jacqueline at Bristol City Council. Jacqueline, just to quickly ask, obviously Bristol sort of led the way in a bit in being one of the local authorities who's really sort of gone first on MMC housing development at some sort of scale. And I was just going to ask you, how do you think that the approach can help to unlock scale of MMC in the region? And what are the opportunities for other local authorities or housing associations that might be on the call?
Thanks, Phil. That's a good question. And I have to be honest, I can't remember what I've already said, so apologies. But I'd echo what Jessie was saying. You know, as you know, there is a housing crisis nationally, and in Bristol, we're particularly affected. And we recognise that the shortage of affordable housing has an impact on people's health and well-being and economic equality, for example. So this is a really high priority for us. And in Bristol, we want a broad range of solutions that can maximise our ability to meet the diverse needs of the city, the communities and our people, and the sites and land available. So any system or process or existing contracting arrangement in place that will enable this adds to the breadth of routes to market that are available to us to enable us to maximise the delivery of affordable housing in the city. Yeah, shall I come back to you there, Phil?
Yeah, no, thank you, Jacqueline. I think that's a really interesting point that you raise. It's, you know, MMC quite often does need that scale, and things like the affordable housing crisis is an absolute opportunity where MMC can find that scale to tackle those economic barriers, the perceived economic barriers, I should say, that sort of can inhibit it sometimes.
It's essential for us. Absolutely, you're right. It's essential for us because, you know, unless we can increase the scale and pace, we are not going to be able to truly tackle this issue and meet demand. You know, and MMC is unlocking sites that we've previously been able to unlock. So completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real interesting situation. I see we've had our first and only question at the moment, so please do take the opportunity to ask some more. But Mary, if I come to you with this question from Neil McKay, is the framework only geared towards MMC providers who can offer the clients a full turnkey project?
Thank you. Good question. Actually, we had it last time as well. No, it's not only geared towards full turnkey. The key criteria for being on the DPS is that you can offer an MMC offsite solution. Whether you do that, whether you apply with or whether you have your own full turnkey solution is not an issue. So you can either apply with a partner or as in your own right if you offer full turnkey to go on the DPS, or if you only offer a system, you can apply as well. The requirements for full turnkey or supply only will be made by the clients who are inputting their requirements into the digital tool. And at that point, the clients will state whether they want just a supply only or a supply and deliver the whole thing. So no, it can be either is the answer. Thank you for that question, though.
It's absolutely key, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting that it's come up a couple of times because quite often local authorities want to see that sort of collaboration approach, and it's all about finding out where and when in the process you sort of seek out partners. So yes, that's a really good one. Any other questions to come in? I think it's been a bit quiet, which either means we've been very effective in our video, but seeing as we had so many questions last time, I'm kind of a bit dubious, I suppose. If we haven't got any questions coming in for now, I might just use, I might look at a couple of questions from the last video and circulate those, if that's all right, and ask some of the panelists. So I was going to ask actually, in Jacqueline, in terms, because I'm aware we haven't got you actually for that long, but obviously land is critical. And I was going to ask, are you thinking about exploring new opportunities? And have we got any examples of MMC being used to unlock interesting sites, such as retail parks or car parks, all those sorts of things?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I mean, you know, as you know, Bristol is one of the core cities, and land is a premium, and big expanses of land that's ideal for development is sparse. So we're always looking at ways that we can utilise land and space available in support of, you know, the delivery of additional affordable housing. So we've got some really good examples, and I'm really pleased that we've used MMC solutions in these scenarios. We've got 11 homes that are built over a car park in the city. What that's meant is that we're able to retain car parking space for that community, as well as provide really important affordable housing for some of what are potentially, you know, the most vulnerable citizens in the city. We've got another scenario where we've got a long lease on a piece of land. So we've got units that lend themselves to being decommissioned and recommissioned elsewhere. And we've also got, you know, a couple of scenarios where we've utilised more kind of container, what I'd call container type solutions. So, you know, I think any potential solution that's available, we would want to know about. We'd want to be able to access it because it's the right mechanism and system for the right site as far as I'm concerned. And if it enables us to deliver our corporate objectives, then fantastic. And what we've seen through the Innovate UK project that we've been working on is really high quality, sustainable solutions that are adopting sometimes state-of-the-art technologies. So, you know, that the quality can rival any other system out there in terms of, you know, the speed that these systems are being put in place is really outstanding. I'll come back to you, Phil, and get off my soapbox.
No, that's great to hear. Thank you, Jacqueline. We've had another question from Neil McKay. Is there a cost to, it says the DPP, but I assume that's DPS for the new suppliers. Mary or Phil? Oh, Mary, sorry, on mute.
I'll answer that one. No, there isn't a cost to be registered to be part of the DPS. The way in which we'll be using the same model that we as a provider of procurement services use on all our frameworks and DPS is that a levy is charged on the value of any contract that actually goes to site. So that is the way we do it. So there isn't a charge in a sense to the supplier. It's a bottom line addition, percentage addition on the cost of the actual eventual project or scheme.
And whilst you're on, we had a question as well from Keith Hart, which is how do you intend to market this DPS to potential customers?
Well, through social media, through publicity, through flyers, through working with our partners. I mean, I think a lot of work has been done by the Bristol Housing Festival team, by Innovate UK, all the publicity around the enabling housing for inclusive growth, by, you know, forming close links with the local authorities. You know, we have Bristol City Council as a key sponsor, and I know Jacqueline is talking to all her colleagues about how this is a wonderful delivery option. But no, we do talk, and you know, we do have other MMC products within the Southwest to Southwest Procurement Alliance, and the reason we are producing this DPS and working in partnership with Innovation UK and the CMM is because we see a gap. We see a gap in the market because frameworks are not dynamic enough to work in such a fast changing environment where you have a lot of new entrants to the market. And one of our frustrations has been that we know that there's some really good suppliers of MMC solutions out there, but they don't have a clear and transparent route to delivering their product to the public sector. So every which way, and we would work with those who are successful on getting on the DPS. You know, we do lots of joint promotion as well.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah,
we're very fortunate that we have the Bristol Housing Festival as well, who've obviously been sort of getting to know everyone in the MMC space for 5 years nearly. So they can obviously help do the promotion as well. Neil has asked what the percentage is if we're able to disclose. And I suppose we probably will take the coward's way out and say, actually, we'd rather not disclose that at this point, just because we're looking at what the market would sort of seem would deem would be appropriate. We're not looking to necessarily go that far away from what is the current sort of rates and available. And Mary,
it might
add something to that at all.
It might be nice to know what he thought the suitable rate should be, because this is part of the consultation, really. Yes, what his thoughts are on the matter.
Yes, brilliant. Well, we'll wait to see if he I might imagine it will be 0.0001% maybe, but we'll wait to see what comes back on that. So we don't seem to have any other queries. His thing has disappeared, so we'll see if anything comes back on that. We don't have any other queries live at the moment, but I will just ask a couple of other questions because I'm aware that a couple of our colleagues have to leave at 4 o'clock. Just a couple of the ones around the finances in terms of the DPS. So Mary and or Phil, in terms of the financial, assuming in terms of the DPS, sorry, is there any mandatory exclusions or financial thresholds for suppliers?
I'm not sure whether Phil Blackmore's able to answer that one, or whether
No, he's not coming back.
Phil's internet is not doing. Will there be any mandatory exclusions? We will have sort of 3 levels of suppliers. So, you know, we will have set turnover requirements. So if you don't meet those turnover requirements, then you will be excluded. And also we'll want to look at your financial stability. We'll be doing a check through. We use Experian as our credit rating agency. But what happens with other DPSs we run is even if your credit rating is not good enough at the first time you apply, the thing about a DPS is you've always got the opportunity to reapply again and be reassessed. That's the beauty of a DPS. And certainly for the low, you know, the lowest level or the smallest companies, we don't want to exclude anybody on the basis of size, you know, because we want to be able to offer the capacity for clients to use, maybe, you know, build just two houses in a very small site. So we won't be placing high thresholds on the smaller lots.
Yes, and just to add to that one as well, there was a key issue. One of the questions we had previously was around the role for SMEs who are working in the MMC space and have low turnover. And obviously that's an area where we'd be really keen to make sure that we got their data into the CMM toolkit so that they could still have a role to play, even if it's not via a DPS procurement. It's all about making sure that you get your opportunity to be in the shop window as it was, and you don't end up sort of missing out on the opportunity to build these networks and these relationships with local authorities as well. In terms of the BAYS construction playbook and the current changes to procurement, Jessie, you've been able to get off scot-free for a little while, so I might come to you if you'd like. If you've got anything you would like to add to that question, which we had last time, which was around how this system, including the outcome-led procurement element, is aligned to the government's latest approach on procurement through the playbook and the changes to procurement policy.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. My background is I'm not a procurement expert, so I won't speak to specific details or anything like that. But I think there's some really big questions being asked at the moment, aren't there? And the fact that that playbook has come out is a real statement of that. And actually the fact that there are some real questions that need to be asked and answered around value and what is value. Not only what is the cost of something, but what is the value? What is the cost, the human cost of things? What's the cost to our planet? What is the cost long term? What's the full life cost? And actually, I think some of those bigger questions around really what we mean by cost are starting to be addressed. So I think MMC as an opportunity in the market even is really important to be looking at some of those bigger questions around what we really mean by cost. And so opening up a DPS like this and looking at how we help public bodies engage with MMC is really, really crucial around that. So probably not a direct answer to your question, Phil, but I think...
No, I thought you did very well, since I threw that one at you. I was also... Just while I've got you there as well, I was just going to mention Mary as well, you can come in on this. In terms of contracts, we have been asked before about different types of contract and how they can work with MMC developments. Do you both just want to give a quick one-liner of your view on in terms of existing JCT contracts, for example?
Yeah, of course. one line is probably pretty difficult. I think the contracts that exist, the templates that are out there can work for MMC. I've heard some horror stories of how many adjustments and alterations need to happen to a kind of traditional D&B contract in order to work with MMC, but it is possible. There are always ways through and always ways around it. But there are some big questions going on at the moment, again, around how you can adjust those contracts to really take into account the nuances of MMC and the different systems that are out there. But there's always a way through, I think, would be my one liner.
And Mary, did you want to add anything at all?
Well, my one liner is, yes, we recognise that some of the forms of contract are obviously much more suited to traditional forms of building, and there have been some nice earners for people putting together, you know, contract amendments. But I think that certainly one of the things that we should be doing as part of our sort of ongoing development, both and assistance to both clients and suppliers, is signposting to some of those places where the contracts are developing. We wouldn't want to develop ourselves because, well, certainly I don't feel I have the expertise to be a legal person, but certainly, you know, I think we need to signpost and we need to pressure people into, you know, our lawyer colleagues into producing some really good standard amendments that can be used by our local authority and registered social housing providers, rather than trying to sort of shoehorn some of the older forms of contract into the MMC arena.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Mary. So we're 2 minutes before the end, but I think unless there are any other questions, I'll probably call it here. Just to sum up and just to remind everyone, there's a few links in the chat that you might want to click on and investigate. As I understand it, we will be contacting everyone who's registered for this webinar with further details of how to get involved. Obviously, this is a sort of a pin notice stage, so this is a bit of consultation and a bit of discussion about the procurement and how it will go forward. We're very hopeful that once we've completed this session, we will have another session next week. So if you want any of your friends or colleagues to come along, or you had any questions that you didn't quite get answered this time, please take advantage of the next one, same time, same place next week. And then in addition to that, we've also got various little opportunities for questionnaires as well, which I understand Phil Blackmore will be sending around as well on behalf of SWPA. And then hopefully, with all things going well and a following wind, we'll be actually launching this with a contract notice in July. So hopefully, you know, this is a real thing that can, you know, really put the west of England and the whole of the southwest on the map, because, you know, potentially there's a lot of housing development needed across, you know, the west of England, Gloucester, Dorset, Cornwall, Devon, and this framework, this DPS, has the opportunity to be a really useful tool in helping unlock MMC at scale. So hopefully that's been of some use. I don't know, Mary, if you just want to add anything to that, or if I've missed anything off the to-do list just to wrap up.
No, I think just to echo that we're all very excited about this opportunity. We feel it's a very innovative product. We feel that it's totally in line with the government's green paper on procurement about being, you know, DPS plus, providing wider access to suppliers to some of these procurement vehicles. And yes, please keep in touch. Please register your interest. Please, if you've got any comments or queries, get in touch with us, or via the Proactis portal, you can do that as well. Yeah, and we look forward to welcoming you all the people who are suppliers onto the DPS in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. I'll call it an end there, and I can let all of our colleagues go as well. Thank you.